My name is Patrick King, the founder, owner, CEO, head bottle washer of Imagine. We're a digital marketing, branding, web design agency based in Old Town Manassas. Founded it in 2004. Worked with everywhere from Fortune 500, local government, mid-market clients. Our biggest push right now is in tourism, economic development, travel, that sort of stuff. I do not wear ties. You can check my Facebook photos. You will only see me wearing a tie at a wedding or a funeral, but I do wear weird socks.
Today is beer glasses.
Congratulations, everybody. Okay, so on the agenda today, I'm going to go over two main things. Okay, one is 5 hard truths about advertising. The second is advertising mistakes to avoid as you're going through the process. And then we'll do a Q&A at the end. Part 1, 5 hard truths. These are all common sense things. These are all things that we already know, but we don't remember when we're actually going through the process of advertising. With each hard truth that I bring up, that'll be the beat you up part, and then I'll go through, okay, so how can you combat this? What are some tips to prevent you running into these hard truths and spending a lot of money that doesn't go anywhere? The first, no one has any time for your ads. Think about your own day. You're already busy. You're already taking in so many advertising messages, marketing messages. Go to the grocery store, and you're going to see probably 500 to 700 advertising messages hitting you in the face. It's said that the average person sees between 3,500 and 4,000 advertising messages per day, and that's not just print ads or commercials. That could be a sports team jacket. That could be a car. All of these things are advertising messages. So when you add all this stuff up, what you have is a lot of advertising hitting people in the face, and they don't really have time for anything else. As a matter of fact, in the past 13 years, media consumption being anything that's published online, printed on a billboard, the Dominion logo over that window, media consumption has risen from 45 to 65 hours per week over the past 13 years. Now, when you think that really we're only awake for, 118 hours a week? Now, it's over half of our time is spent consuming media. And that media is already out there. It already beat you to market. This is a Nielsen study that was done for the first quarter of 2018. And on the left column here, that's really just an average. This is for adults 18 and over. What you see here is a growth of 2 major areas. One is live time-shifted television, and the other is apps and web on a smartphone. So these are the 2 big numbers here to pay attention to, because what's going to happen over the next few years is that 18 and 34, the second column there, is going to shift. And more and more people that you're going to be targeting as donors are going to be either on their smartphones or watching television. Combine that with the fact that we now have hundreds and hundreds of TV channels, and we have thousands, millions of websites to visit. That's a lot of stuff that people are already putting into their heads. So what do you do when the media marketplace is already so saturated? The first one is diversify your advertising. In that same study, it showed that digital natives, people born since 1990, switched media platforms 27 times per hour. Or every other minute. Now, the rest of us are still pretty bad off, 17 times per hour on average. So that's a 30% decrease in attention span. To put this into perspective, can anybody tell me what the best response rate is across common media for either of these 5?
10 seconds.
I mean, no, response rates, like
1%.
percentage.
Oh, yeah.
A percentage,
Yeah,
like a,
direct mail is about 1 to 2%. I know that. I don't know about the other ones.
it was 1 to 2% a few years ago.
Oh, it's worse.
It's 1 now.
It's now 5.1%.
It's going up.
And the reason why is because everybody's using other things. The more people are using digital advertising, the less they're using direct mail. Because direct mail is a higher cost per impression, right? But when people see fewer things in their mailbox, they pay more attention to what's in their mailbox, right? So that number has gone up dramatically over the past few years. Okay. Hard truth number 2, and this is the hardest. Nobody cares about your ads as much as you do. And it's true, it's kind of hard to get out of your own head, kind of get out of the jar and see what's on the label. It's kind of hard to get some perspective from somebody that really doesn't know anything about your organization, doesn't know anything about what your purpose is, what your cause is, and try to get them to go from 0 to being a passionate supporter in 1 or 2 ads. It's tough. And that's if they even see them. Because now we have, DVRs have been around for over a decade, right? Ad blocking software has just become more and more popular. Even modern browsers, like Chrome, and I think Apple's baking it into Safari, they have internal ad blocking already on their within their browsers. So you don't even have to install anything. So you take all these things that people have, email, spam filters, and all these tools, all this technology to keep ads from people, that makes it really tough. So what do you do? With what little visibility you have to immediately address a pain point. You have to address something that's very specific, very targeted, and means a whole lot to an individual person, to a market segment. Okay? So these are just a couple examples. There's a Facebook ad that we're running for a local child care company that specifically talks about, it addresses the issue of people that don't have set schedules. People that may work in the service industries, where they don't know necessarily what they're working from one week to the next. So we focused on flexible scheduling. That was the pain point. And the return on this ad is still running, and this ad has been tremendously successful. Over here is a direct mail campaign going to child care organizations, child care centers, day schools, and speaks specifically to the amount of germs that need to be prevented in child care facilities. It's very targeted, speaks one message to one audience. The second is to use emotion. Now, there are 2 parts to good advertising. One is logical, one is emotional. And the way that human psychology works, I'm sure a lot of you know this, is that emotion kicks in first. You go to a car lot, see all the pretty painted cars. You look and you have an emotional connection, right? It's a matter of taste, a matter of preference, right? It's not something that's necessarily logical. But then shortly after that, logic kicks in. And it's almost like logic has to out-reason emotion. If emotion trumps logic, then it becomes an emotional purchase. If logic kicks in and goes, well, wait, we can't afford this, then it's a logical purchase, right? Always make sure that you're incorporating some type of emotion into your advertising. Suzanne, does this have sound?
What? Yeah, it should.
All right, let's
You
try
try
it.
it. Doesn't matter if it's turned on, I can turn it on.
Happy birthday to you. Wish. Granny. Have you done your homework? I done.
Here it comes.
On clashes with Richard. Live ammunition. They come
Deserve to get shot.
airstrikes on rebel position.
Right.
2 homes in Richmond. 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 2 homes in Rich
So that's very simple ad, right? You really don't even need sound to understand it, but it's all emotional. And I'm sure there are a few of these emotions that a lot of you got from watching that video. It's very compelling, and that is a 100% emotional ad. And the response from this ad's about almost a year old. The response from this ad has been enormous. So much so that it was rated one of the best nonprofit ads of 2018. Yeah.
Just to, as we think of what is enormous and successful, if the average is 0.5% return, what is considered a huge success? I mean, what are the numbers that we should be looking for, just so we have realistic expectations?
It depends on the medium.
Okay.
So for smaller nonprofits that rely heavily on digital marketing, usually if you're going to run a Facebook ad campaign, I'd say if you can bring it down to $1 per conversion, or $1 per action, then you're in pretty good shape. But chances are you're probably looking at probably the $3 or $4. The next tip, and this is also for those that rely heavily on digital marketing, is considering sponsored content. Sponsored content is when you look at you read an article, you can read it on Forbes or Inc. or whatever, and you always see under the title that says sponsored, or it has provided by one of our partners. Actually, if you look at this month's Virginia Business, I think there's one from County's Economic Development that we worked on that says from one of our partners, and it's advertising, but it's content. And we found that that's one of the most powerful forms of advertising, because you get to tell a story. And it's not just visual, it leans more towards the logical side, but people stay on pages of sponsored content, longer than they look at ads. It's immune to ad blockers, because it's within the content of the website. It's measurable, which means that you can go off the analytics of wherever it's published. And then it also tells a story. So you can get a little deeper into your cause. Types of sponsored content. They're often called native ads, but that term's pretty interchangeable. Influencer marketing. Who's familiar with influencer marketing? Okay. All right, so I'll break it down. Influencer marketing is basically you're riding on the social capital or reputation of some sort of local celebrity. Now, it's done in much bigger context, but you can have Chrissy Teigen does it all the time on Instagram. So she's endorsing a bunch of brands, like this is what I use, this is how I look so good. You can do the same thing on a nonprofit level. If you can find, and I'm sure they're not hard to find, especially around election time, local politicians that fully back your cause, they have large audiences. And for them to endorse your organization to their audience is influence marketing. Okay. What's not considered sponsored content is a press release or your own content marketing. A press release is you've written it, you haven't paid for it, it's not guaranteed. If the media likes it, they'll pick it up. That's a press release. Content marketing is the stuff that you publish out on your own channels. Okay? Number 4, and this is right on Steve's message here, partnering with a for-profit. Cause marketing is one of the most powerful ways that for-profits can get visibility and build their own businesses, because it's a win-win. The company gets to show that, hey, we care about the community so much that we're willing to do X. And the nonprofit gets extra visibility, and both get to access each other's audiences. So it works for both sides. A good example, I don't know, with Loveless Porter, an architect firm in Old Town, it's a client of ours. What we want to do is figure out how we can get more visibility for him. So we decided to create a cross marketing campaign. Semper Canine, if you aren't familiar with it, it's an organization that was started by a military couple that wants to provide assistance dogs to veterans. Well, they're in the process of trying to get a facility. And as you all know, when you're trying to get your own brick and mortar, your own facility, there are a lot of expenses you have to incur. An architect is one of them. But by partnering these two together, Sean Porter offered to do all the architect planning services for Semper Canine, and in return, he got access to their audience. And so it's been a huge win for both of them. Now for Axe, we did a different program with an attorney from Compton and Dueling that her focus was on divorce. And she wanted to be able to speak to women and debunk a lot of myths about divorce. Like, if you go talk to an attorney, does that mean that you're getting a divorce right then? No. Myths like that a lot of women may have. So we were able to have a seminar at Axe with the attorney from Compton and Dueling, and it worked well for everybody. So it's those types of, you look at it as a partnership. Don't look at it as a sponsorship or a donation. Look at it to figure out how is it going to work well for both of us. I'm not going to go any further into it, or else I'm going to take the wind out of Steve's sails. They trust, that they understand. In order for these three things to happen, it's going to take time. They're going to need to be educated. They're going to need to be bought in. So you have to be patient with it. That's the same advice that I give for-profits. They have to get to know you. So this takes us to part 2. These are advertising mistakes to avoid. Number 1, expecting that one ad is going to appeal to everyone. I can't stress this enough. Every organization needs to segment their audiences. You all need to have pockets, groups of people that you're trying to target. You have to learn about those segments. How tech savvy are they? What languages do they predominantly speak? What type of pain points do they have specifically? And that helps you create ads that speak deeply to a certain market segment. That's a diagram I like to show a lot. In advertising, you can go one of two ways. You can either go broad and say one message to everybody and mean very little, or you can be very deep and specific and mean a lot to a select few. Now, what we recommend is having a whole lot of these, a whole lot of deep messages to each segment of your audience, because that way the ad has impact and it resonates and it's relevant. The second mistake that people make in advertising is poor planning. So let's say a local magazine calls you up and says, hey, we've got a spot in our magazine, we're going to donate this month to a local nonprofit, and guess what? You get it. So you scurry to get everything together. Okay, we're to make a pretty ad, we're going to get it out. But you don't consider the ad planning process, which is as follows. The offer.
Sorry.
Are you now? The offer. What would their involvement do? Who would benefit? What impact would it have? The channel is where you're reaching your audience. Is that magazine that called you? Does that magazine, if you had to pay for it, would that even reach the people that you're trying to reach? The audience, who would be interested? The ad creative, or the artwork, or the video, Why should they care? And then time frame. With every ad, you want people to act. You always want them to take a next step. You always want them to do something. Whether it's to sign up to be a volunteer, or it's to sign up for a program, or sponsor an event, or become a partner. You all want them to do something. Well, a good ad gives people that next step. The video that we just saw has only one step, and that is to tweet and follow the hashtag. That was it. There wasn't even a website on there. There was no phone number. That's what they want you to do. So, in a good ad, always give them what they should do next. Mistake number 3, when we're all passionate about our causes, we all tend to make it all about us. We have to tell you the story. We have to tell you this. We have to tell you the story. But resist. Don't try and make it so much about you. You have to bring other people into it. Because in order for advertising to be effective, you can't just talk about yourself. You have to do 2 things as well. You have to connect. Let's talk about the emotional part. And you have to mean something to the lives of others. It has to be relevant. So those are the 2 sides: emotion, logic. There has to be some type of draw, and it has to be relevant. Okay. Mistake number 4. This typically happens for organizations that run Facebook ad campaigns, Google ads, those like set and forget programs. Is they'll just set it and walk away from it. They'll do it for months. Recently, we picked up a client that had been running Google AdWords for 2 years and hadn't logged in to check it out. They were spending thousands a month. And just, oh yeah, we've got that ad campaign that we've been running for 2 years. Yeah. So that's a big problem. Make sure that you're staying on top of your website analytics. Who has Google Analytics on the website here? Come on, people. Yes, you do. But this is critical, because how else are you going to know what impact your advertising's having? You can do some sneaky things in your print ads, like put a special URL on there. So it would be yourwebsite.com/something that only people would type in if they saw your ad. That way you can track its progress here. You can also link Facebook ads, Facebook posts, things like that. You can link them to only pages that people would visit if they had that link, and track your progress this way. So I suggest that everyone, it's free. Contact your webmaster or whoever and get Google Analytics on your website. They didn't pay me for that. Mistake number 5 is paying for everything. So we all think in order to advertise, it takes money to make money. Yeah, not true. There are so many ways that you can get visibility that you don't have to pay for. Paid media is only a quarter of the visibility that you can get. We like to instruct clients on the PESO or PESO model. You have your paid media, which are paid ads, but then you have earned. Earned could be press releases. Earned could result from the partnerships that you've made. It can be announcements. It can be your own content that was maybe published out on your Facebook page that was picked up by a news organization. Shared is your own content that just spreads virally. Okay. A quick tip on if you want to increase your shared media, like on social media, tag everything. Tag every organization, every person that's involved in everything that you're doing, because they're going to want to share it. And then there's owned. Owned is your blog. It's your own social accounts. So you have all 4 of these, and also with earned and kind of earned shared is that influencer marketing, which can be very, very powerful.